tautas labumu. Es darīšu visu, kas stāvēs manos spēkos, lai sekmētu Latvijas valsts
vienīgo solījumu.
Pastrādāt Latvijas labā. Meklēsim vienojošo, godīgi pārunāju.
Ukraine's presidential press service has released video showing President Volodymyr Zelenskiy returning home from Turkey with 5 former commanders of Ukraine's garrison in Mariupol. That's despite a prisoner exchange last year under which the men were meant to remain in Turkey. Russia immediately denounced the release of the men, with the Kremlin spokesperson saying Turkey had violated the terms of the exchange and hadn't informed Moscow. The commanders are hailed as heroes in Ukraine after leading last year's defense of the port, the biggest city Russia captured in its invasion. Thousands of civilians were killed inside Mariupol when Russian forces laid waste to the city during a 3-month siege. The defenders held out in tunnels and bunkers under the Azovstal steel plant until they were finally ordered by Kyiv to surrender in May last year. Russia freed some of them months later in a prisoner swap brokered by Turkey under terms that required the commanders to remain in Turkey until the end of the war. Zelensky gave no explanation for why the commanders were being allowed to return home now. Turkey did not immediately respond to a request for comment.
During meetings in Beijing, U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen on Saturday urged closer communication between China and the United States to improve economic decision-making, and challenged China to join global initiatives to help poorer nations address climate change.
Climate change is on the top of the list of global challenges, and the United States and China must work together to address this existential threat.
Yellen's visit through Sunday is Washington's latest attempt to repair some ties between the world's 2 biggest economies, battered over issues from Taiwan to technology. Despite bilateral tensions, Yellen pointed out that record-high trade last year between the 2 countries showed there was ample room to engage in trade and investment.
As the world's 2 largest emitters of greenhouse gases and the largest investors in renewable energy, we have both a joint responsibility and ability to lead the way.
Yellen told Chinese Vice Premier He Lifeng it was critical to focus on areas of common interest and address disagreements through dialogue.
This communication can help both sides more fully understand the global economic outlook.
Chinese state media described the meeting as in-depth, candid, and pragmatic. But while the talks were constructive, the Chinese side expressed concern about U.S. sanctions and restrictive measures against China, according to its state-run news agency. Yellen told a group of female economists on Saturday that she was in Beijing at a critical time because she and President Joe Biden believe it is in the country's best interest to put the relationship on a better track.
Lithuania's border with Russian ally Belarus is fenced up with razor wire. NATO has turned Vilnius into a fortress, aiming to protect US President Joe Biden and other alliance leaders as they meet there next week. Rustamas Luboyevas is the commander of the Lithuanian State Border Guard Service.
This situation is really very tense because of aggression of Russian Federation against Ukraine. So it's already on a very, very high level.
16 NATO allies have sent a total of about 1,000 troops to safeguard the July 11th to the 12th summit. Many are also providing advanced air defense systems, which the Baltic states lack. The Baltic countries, Lithuania, Estonia and Latvia, were once under Moscow's rule, but they have been part of both NATO and the European Union since 2004. The countries all spent above 2% of their economies on defense, a larger share than most other NATO allies. But for the region with total population of about 6 million people, this is not enough to sustain large militaries, invest in their own fighter jets, or advance air defense. At villages next to the Belarus border, locals like Edgars Rinkevics told Reuters they feel totally safe, despite the Russian allies' offer to accommodate Russia's private Wagner group and hosting Russian nuclear weapons. Thousands of Middle Eastern migrants have crossed at the Belarus border in 2021, in an effort Lithuania and the European Union said was orchestrated by Minsk. Minsk has denied the allegations. The numbers have since subsided. Border checks on Lithuania's European Union borders with Poland and Latvia were reintroduced for the summit. The mayor of Vilnius has suggested citizens go on holiday outside the city if they want to avoid disruption, as large parts of central Vilnius will be closed off for the summit.
Президент може допомогти відновити мир і нормальний. Звичайно, торкнулися сьогодні ключових питань нашої співпраці в рамках НАТО, зокрема підготовки до саміту у Вільнюсі. Я в розмові підняв питання щодо запрошення України в НАТО. Був радий почути, що президент сказав, що Україна заслуговує стати членом НАТО.
Gerilimin sıcak çatışmaya döndüğü gün geçen sene Mart ayında iki ülke müzakere
Детально обговорили ситуацію в нашому Чорноморському регіоні, в Європі загалом. Маємо однакове бачення того, що ніхто не має права нав'язувати нашим державам і народам будь-що в Чорноморському регіоні, що не відповідає інтересам наших держав і народів. Чорне море має бути простором безпеки, співпраці, а не війни та будь-яких криз чи так званих заморожених конфліктів, які можуть в будь-який момент знов розпалитися та ударити по життю і по людях.